Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Links are in the description below. Please show some love to the author and me. On to the show. After buying things, Shinchan took the little brothers back on the suspension car. While in the car, Shinchan replaced the energy bar with rhubarb, but before the hover car drove home, the energy bar was used up and turned into a layer of skin. Why? This rhubarb is very capable, but it is too hard to eat energy. After returning home, Zingdust slept soundly. Too many things have happened in this day and night, and I have been nervous all the time, so I always need to relax a bit. When I woke up the next day, it was still the same warehouse space, surrounded by those metal parts in a mess. Why? It seems that there is really no way to go back, Shinchan sighed. In this case, he can only start his own life here. I just sold a unit of metal yesterday, and I already have the money in my hand. I can save some of the money, and I will not worry about eating and using it for a few months. But you have to think about your own way out. It's impossible to nest in such a crappy place and keep picking up waste for a living. It's too embarrassing for the traversers. It's just that the way out is not so easy to find. On such a planet where resources are scarce and job opportunities are highly competitive, I am just a rookie at the 5th or 6th human level, but I can't compete with others. If you want to get ahead, you need to leave here and find opportunities in other areas with richer resources. This requires spaceships instead of transportation. Of course, if you are stronger and earn more money, you can buy a ticket to another planet. However, the planets that can be visited by public spaceships are generally planets with good transportation. In that case, the personnel on the place will be relatively complicated. Without the strength to go up to the ground level, there is a high probability that they will not be able to save their own lives. I am looking for opportunities, not death. And a boat ticket is not cheap. A planet that is more than 100 light-years away will cost thousands or even tens of thousands of rals for one ride. If you run over here, and you can't find a suitable job, you will have no money to go to the next planet to find opportunities. Then you must starve to death. Depressed. How could he time travel to such a poor guy? No way, it's useless to say anything at this time. I can only think about the way out in the future. When he found the shell of the spaceship yesterday, Shinchan had an idea. That is to collect some accessories and install the small spaceship, so that it will be more convenient to go anywhere, and even if it doesn't work, he can do things among the planets earn shipping fees for transportation. However, the spaceships here are all scrapped products. Even if some spaceships carry some usable parts, they cannot be collected in a short while. There is also the main power engine of the spaceship, which has been taken away long ago, and the ones brought over are all waste products. Without this thing, it is useless to install all the other parts of the spaceship. Why worry? Fortunately, this body is young, otherwise, in just one night, a lot of gray hair would be there. After thinking about it for a while, Shinchan felt that it is better to take a step to see. Although the main power engine is hard to find, other parts are not easy to collect, so let's collect them little by little first. In the future, maybe if you make a small fortune, you can afford it. After thinking about this matter, Shinchan ate lunch first, which was still a piece of food, and then drank the rest of the water. That's enough for half a day. I also brought food and water in my bag, so it's not too late to eat if you're hungry or thirsty. Next, I still took my younger brother out, all the way to the waste dump area before. It's still the same here as yesterday. Some of them probably got up late and haven't come here yet, and others are groping around and let the robot dig metal. Okay. Start working. But now Stardust is not working on his own. Rhubarb has already marked all the metals that can be recycled in this area and passed them on to Dang Dang and Bailiu. Then Shinchan took the rhubarb and turned around again, turning his own land around again. Rhubarb marked all the spaceship parts in this area, as long as they are relatively complete. When Dang Dang and the others are done collecting metal, it's time to collect parts. What a busy day. It's a pity that I didn't try hard to collect various parts of the robot before, otherwise it would be more efficient to install a few new robot brothers to work together. I have already marked this area. Now Xingchen, who is idle and bored, looks at other people's area again. It's just that it's impossible to go directly to find things like this, that's too obvious. It would be bad for others to boycott themselves together. Xingchen thought of a trick or change things. However, the medal found by the younger brothers will be given to the black-faced old man for points. There is nothing to exchange. That's still the old rule. Replace it with a goblin. There are quite a lot of stinging rats here, and there is a cheating tool of rhubarb. As long as those small animals are within the range of rhubarb's detection, then don't even think about running away. As soon as he said it, Xingchen walked around the edge of his own area first, and rhubarb found a few traces of gorillas. We ruled out the 3 that hid too deep to kill, the other 4 can be killed and changed. There is no area scope for killing thorn rats. As long as you find it, you can kill it. If you kill the thorn rats on other people's territory, it's too late for others to be happy. This thing is very harmful to the body. If someone helps to kill it, no one will refuse. But if you go to other people's territory and kill everyone, it will be suspicious. So the only ones who can be killed here are those near their own territory. It took Xingchen less than half an hour to call and kill the 4 goats one by one. Then let the guard robot carry the prey and start friendly visits to other people. Just walk over and ask if you need echinacea meat, change it if you need it, and go around to the next person if you don't need it. This trip has traveled more than 10 kilometers, but the effect is not bad. Under Rhubarb's investigation, he actually found a lot of spaceship accessories that can be used, and some suspension car accessories. Although the integrity of these accessories is average, most of them have considerable wear and tear, but second-hand goods, what more do you want to pinch a bicycle? It's just that this meeting can't be done. This is a lot of people's territory, and it's a taboo thing to steal other people's things in the past. And it's still a taboo for so many people. Go back first. When everyone goes back to spend the cold night time later, I can do a few things while I have time, but don't waste too much time. In case you come home late, it will be uncomfortable to rush home in severe cold weather. When they returned to their own site after this round, they had already collected the metal, and they were collecting spaceship parts and the like. Stardust looked at the collection situation. It's almost the same, there is a little more than 0.4 units. The deal negotiated yesterday will give the old man 0.23 units of metal. This time, send it over to him. Don't let the old man talk about himself, maybe he will lose his life. Right? Xingchen brought the levitation car to the black-faced old man. After receiving the agreed 0.23 units of metal, the guy was smiling. Isn't that right? This is an extra gain, and he doesn't need to bother a little. It would be nice to come a few more times. After paying off the bills that should be settled, there is no need to stay with the old man, and Xingchen returned to his own area. In fact, most of the usable and recyclable objects here have been collected, but he still has to wait for the time before the cold night to get something in other people's areas, so he can't leave this meeting. Bored, Xingchen found a shaded place to rest, and the robot guarded the door to prevent danger. Waiting until the stars were about to set and the eve of the cold night, Xingchen came out of the resting place. At this time, most of the scavengers had already left, and only a few or 3 people were still busy in the distance. Depending on the situation, they would leave soon. Taking advantage of this time, Xingchen brought a few younger brothers to the place he aimed at without stopping, and the 2 main players split up. In less than 5 minutes, 2 complete spaceship accessories were obtained. But now is not the time to be happy. After the stars set, the temperature drops very quickly, and there is not much time left for Stardust. This will not dare to delay for a minute. It took another 10 minutes or so, and 3 accessories were in hand. At this time, a cold wind began to blow in the sky, so there was no delay. Xingchen felt a pity for those things that he didn't get. But time has not allowed him to stay here. Greeted all the younger brothers to get on the suspension car, and Dang Dang drove the suspension car to go home at the fastest speed. By the time Stardust got into the passage home, the temperature outside had dropped to around -30 degrees, and it was a hell of a journey. Why? It's really not easy to get some benefits in private. Back in his own barn, Xingchen was relieved. The home side is still the same safe. Well, La faithfully guards the entire space area of the spaceship. Of course, it does not rely on it to drive away intruders, but there are many traps around it controlled by it, making it difficult for enemies to enter. In the past 2 days, the younger brothers have been working hard, especially Dang Dang and Biliu, who have been busy in the scavenging area. Don't know what is damaged. Such a hard-working little brother can't be wronged. Xingchen asked Hua La to work hard for the 2 masters to overhaul, and then add energy and oil or something. It can be regarded as adding a meal to them. Of course, they are both younger brothers. These 2 have extra meals, so naturally they have to work overtime. Xingchen arranged for the 2 younger brothers to go to the warehouse near the entrance of the passage to clean the shell of the small spaceship at night. Although this work is not too urgent, only after cleaning can we know which parts need to be re-welded and reinforced, and which parts need to be replaced with new parts. These tasks are one after another. If they are not cleaned up, the next step will be delayed. 1 step late, that is step by step late. This is unbearable. After arranging the work, it is natural to eat and rest. Have a good night's dream, wake up in the morning, it's another day to pick up waste. After Xingchen got up, he patted his face and refreshed himself. This is considered to be washing the face. There is no way, the water resources here are too precious. If you wash your face, you don't use water, but a face towel. It's just that I didn't bring that thing with me. Back at school, of course, there will be a ration of face towels, but I have sold most of them for money. Whoever makes me tight, I can only feel wronged. There is nothing to do at this moment in the morning, that is, I ate a piece of food and drank half a portion of water, so breakfast is done. Then Xingchen told the little brother to go out quickly. If he went early, he could still get 1 or 2 accessories while no one was around. However, when Stardust rushed to the waste dump area, he found that everyone was gathered together and did not pick up waste there. After asking, he found out that today is the day when the spaceship that transports waste came to throw things. In other words, after the spaceship throws down those waste products, everyone will have to occupy the land again. Alright. Then let's wait together. After waiting for an hour together, 5 huge spaceships, nearly a kilometer long, flew over from outer space. Then these 5 spaceships opened their warehouse doors over the storage area one by one, and a large amount of various metal garbage was overturned. This ship is probably more than millions of tons, a total of 5 ships. I don't know how many planets produced garbage. Really know how to make it. After waiting for the garbage transport ship to fly away, the scavengers rushed towards the new waste area in the suspension vehicle. At this time, it depends on your vision and luck. If you have a good eye, you can naturally pick the area where the most pure metals and other items are likely to be produced. Of course, there is also a matter of luck. Maybe you look at a nice area, and it turns out that it's full of real scraps, and the surface is good. Stardust also rushed in with everyone. But now he has the cheating device of rhubarb. When he arrived at the new storage area, Xingchen let Zai Huang start to explore the past. Anyway, where he passed, there are specific things that can be used. Now the door is clear. After rushing over, he rushed to the other end of the waste pile. Xingchen has figured out what accessories are available along the way. Then, according to Rhubarb's guidance, I chose a scavenging area. At this time, other scavengers are still patrolling around, and most of them haven't decided where to go. This is efficiency. Although rhubarb eats a lot of energy, it really works. In the area selected by Da Huang, there are a total of 14 similar spaceship accessories, and there are only 5 kinds of accessories that can be used on Stardust's own small spaceship. There is no way to do this. There are too many types of spaceships on these planets. Who knows when which type of spaceship will break down? If someone breaks down, they may not just throw it away. Maybe they can repair it and continue to use it. Right. It's broken, and the spaceship is thrown away. It's also possible that people from the garbage transportation department will check it in front of it. If there are any usable parts, they will be removed in advance. 99 out of 10 items that make it to this scrapyard are really not recyclable. The accessories that can be found by Shinchan until now may be things that others look down upon. Fortunately, Rhubarb helped to choose. There are accessories that are not good in appearance, but good in integrity. These are the harvest of stardust. After working for almost 2 hours, in the area occupied by stardust, all the selected spaceship accessories have been put away, and the next step is to collect pure metals. These can be sold for money, and no one will be troubled by money. Anyway, with the help of Rhubarb, the positions of those metals are clearly marked, and Dang Dang and Chilio can be found according to the picture. By the afternoon, useful items and accessories have been collected throughout the area. Now it doesn't make sense for Stardust to stay here again. However, there are still some things in the previous area that have not been finished. Now that other people go to this new area to pick up scraps, no one will bother you in the old area. Seeing that everyone was busy, Shinchan didn't say hello to others, and directly called his younger brother to go to the old district together. The old district is the place where the garbage transport spacecraft dumped its waste last time. It covers an area of more than 2 square kilometers. Now there is no one in this area. No one is a good thing, but also a bad thing. You should know that if there are too many people, you can deal with the goats together, and everyone will be safe. Now that Shinchan is staying here alone, it will be much more dangerous if the gorillas gather together. Shinchan told Rhubarb to keep an eye on the movements of the stinging rats at all times, and report any danger at any time. And then just circled the entire area twice. After 2 laps of observation, there are a total of 27 useful spaceship accessories in this area. However, there are only 7 accessories for the small spaceship, which is still too far away. 2 of the 7 pieces overlap with the ones I found just now. Of course, no matter whether it is suitable or not, these accessories must be collected. Although I may not be able to use it myself, but on this planet, not only I need accessories, but also some rich people who own spaceships also need various spaceship accessories. It is good for people to repair spaceships with new accessories, but not necessarily all of them. Willing to spend so much money. If the second-hand ones can be used, it is natural to spend less money to get things done. Collecting spaceship accessories in the old area went smoothly at the beginning, and the first 10 items were completed in less than an hour. Of course, the priority is to collect the accessories you need. Then the atmosphere here became a little tense. At the beginning of the day, 2 thorn rats sneaked over and wanted to make a surprise attack. Now that Shinchan has Rhubarb in his hand, he can clearly see what's going on around here, so naturally he won't be hurt. When the 2 rats approached sneakily, Shinchan held a spear in his hand, and let the 2 guard robots stand in front of one goat rat, and then he took the initiative to meet the other goat rat. In fact, if it wasn't for the sneak attack, the combat power of this kind of stinger rat is not enough to deal with an adult with a weapon in hand, even if Shinchan is only a sub-adult. A battle strength close to the 6th level of the human level is simply not something that a thorn rat can shake. It only took a flash and a stab, and the thorn rat lost his life. Then Shinchan turned around and rushed to the side of another Goiton. At this time, this Goitu was still entangled with the 2 guard robots. It shot at him suddenly, and it didn't rush to dodge, so he and the goat rats ascended to the sky together. However, after assassinating these 2 squirrels, troubles began to arise. Rhubarb found that squirrels began to gather around him. From the beginning of the day, there were only 3 or 2 squirrels, and then gradually more squirrels appeared around him. Due to lack of energy, Rhubarb's detection distance can only detect the fluctuation of life breath within 100 meters. Beyond this distance, it will not be able to detect it, but within this distance, there are already more than 20 goat rats infested. Come on, it's time to talk, or I really have to stay here and feed the goats for dinner. Shinchan hurriedly greeted all the younger brothers to get on the levitation car, and the car Dang Dang quickly left the area. After reaching the safe zone, Shinchan was relieved. Going alone to collect waste is such a risk. There are too many goji rats here. Once they are surrounded and no one can save them, they will easily become snacks for Goji rats. Fortunately, there are still a lot of gains in this shot. I got all the accessories that are suitable for my small spaceship, and I also received as many as 8 other accessories. These can be sold for money in the future, or exchanged with others. It will depend on the situation at that time. As for the thorn rat that was killed just now, Xingchen did not take it away. It has been said that the taste is pleasing, but few people are willing to eat it. In the past 2 days, Xingchen had killed 7 or 8 echinacea rats, and it took a lot of drooling to make a deal when exchanging with others. Now I feel that no one wants to change this thing to eat, so there is no need to take these 2 away. After leaving the old district, Xingchen did not go back to the new district. Although others are busy in the new area, there is nothing to collect in the area I occupy. There's no point in going now. So Xingchen took the younger brothers home directly. It was still early and the outside temperature was not bad. Xingchen had nothing to do when he returned home, so he brought Dang Dang and Bei to the entrance of the passage to check their work results last night. Stardust entered the cabin of the spaceship, only to find that the shell of the entire small spaceship has changed drastically. Before, the entire shell including the inside was covered with traces of burning, and there were many things that were deformed and condensed after the burning of unknown materials were stained everywhere. Now all of them are gone. The outer shell of this small spaceship is the original metal texture, dark gray with a little blue pattern. It feels very cool. That's right, this is originally used by rich N generations to pretend to be B, so naturally the cooler the better. Entering from the cabin door of the small spaceship, all you can see is the luster of metal, and all the old and scrapped equipment have been dismantled. Now the outer shell of the entire spacecraft is smooth, only the outer hard shell, plus the inner supporting metal layer. The material that was originally filled in the middle has been cleaned up. Not bad. This time it seems to be the case. The preparations are complete, and the rest is the hardest part, the equipment of the entire spaceship, plus the power engine. Why? There is a long way to go. There is no place to collect these devices now. Those junked spaceships have just come here, and the next trip may not come until 10 days later, so it's really meaningless to stay at home. Xingchen thought for a while, there is no point in staying here, it's a waste of time to stay idle. Why not go back to school and borrow the training room there to practice? Before I came back, the main reason was that the school didn't care about the food for these 5 days, and I had to buy food by myself when I stayed there. Now that I have money on hand, I don't care about the food expenses for the past few days. But today I am not busy going to school, mainly because the school is in the urban area, which is thousands of kilometers away from this waste area. If I go to school on my own hoverboard, it will be useless. I usually go to school by taking the shuttle bus, between the urban area and the waste station. This car is considered a commuter car for the waste station employees, and it is usually used by the waste station people to and from the city. Stardust was able to take this bus to and from school because of the educational aid quota. It's just that there are 2 buses in this car every day, one in the morning and one in the evening. In fact, this trip at night will start at 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and I will not be able to catch up with this trip by myself. I can only go to the scrapyard tomorrow morning and wait for the bus to go to school. After 2 days of busy work, he was finally free at the moment, and Xingchen returned to the warehouse at home. Seeing that it was late in the evening, I ate 1 portion of food and drank half of a portion of water, and I was done with dinner. To say that eating and drinking here is really simple. Although this kind of lumpy food has been prepared by a professional, the taste is not bad, but it is really uncomfortable to eat the same food all the time. There is nothing to say about resting at night. Xingchen sleeps until the next morning. Then the faithful Hula ran over to wake up Stardust, and Hula also served as Stardust's wake-up alarm clock. Of course, he also had some other tasks, so I won't list them all here. Xingchen sat on the bed and stared for a while, then remembered that he was in another world. Why? It's time to go to school. I can't delay the time. The commuter car at this waste station won't wait for me. Even if I'm a minute late, I won't be able to catch up with the car. Stardust organized the things in his bag, and then stuffed several spaceship accessories into the backpack. This is to be sold in black shops in the city for money. Although he made thousands of reals from selling metals before, the money was not spent. I am afraid that the money might be spent on a few better meals. The parts that are not suitable for small spaceships collected in the waste dump area in the past 2 days are useless to put here, so it is better to sell them for money. The things that will be useful in the bag are the school pass card, the hoverboard, and a change of clothes. There are also some food and water, but when I go back to school, there is naturally a place to eat, so I don't need to bring these food and water with me. Xingchen took out the food and water from the bag, ordered Hua La to put them in the storage box, and then the equipment work was over. It's a bit far from home to the scrapyard, hundreds of kilometers away, and it's a bit difficult to fly there on a skateboard, so Dang Dang drives a hover car to pick up Stardust and take a commuter car. Still the same way today. Dang Dang was already ready, and Xingchen didn't delay, and went out with Dang Dang and the 2 guardian robots. After an hour or so of running around, Xingchen came to the scrap yard, where there were already several workers waiting. It was still a bit cold outside, but the waste station built a waiting room where the commuter bus was waiting, which made everyone suffer less. Within 10 minutes, the commuter bus through the city departed. There were 14 people in the bus this time, some of them were going to work in the work area, and some were taking a break to play. Only Stardust is going to school. This kind of commuter car is very fast. Although the city is quite far away, the time spent on the road did not exceed half an hour. It's shorter than the time it takes for Stardust to go from the scrapyard to his own home. It was this time difference that made Xingchen firm up his determination to save the spaceship. Not for anything else, just saving so much time is enough. After the commuter bus arrived in the urban area, it was already around 8 o'clock in the morning. At this time, the entire urban area began to be active, and shops of various industries were opening for business. There are also some people who have not very tight working hours on the way to work. The place where Stardust got off the commuter bus is still more than 2 kilometers away from the school, but it takes only a few minutes to get there on the hoverboard. Today is the school holiday, but Stardust and the others belong to the last semester of graduation. Most of the qualified students did not go home, but used the school's training equipment to carry out intensive cultivation in school. This is also the reason why some of the students at the same level of Stardust have reached the 8th level of the human level, while some are still at the 5th level of the human level. Of course, this kind of intensive training is not cheap, and the school equipment is not expensive to use, but there is no such thing as free food during the rest period. If you want to achieve good results in cultivation, you must eat and drink well. Ordinary food is not enough for intensive cultivation, so you need to eat more advanced food. Anyway, it costs money, and if you don't have money, you can't do it. Stardust stopped on the hoverboard when he was about to enter the school gate, then took the skateboard in his hand and walked into the gate. It is strictly forbidden to use various flying tools to run around in the school. This is also for everyone's safety, so there are people near the entrance to check the students who violate the school rules. Once caught, the punishment is heavy. So Stardust has always been very disciplined. There are some students coming in and out near the gate. After Xingchen entered the gate and walked more than 10 meters, 3 students came from the side and stopped Xingchen. Stardust froze. However, the student in front of him looks a little familiar, probably an acquaintance from his predecessor. While the 3 were standing in front of Xingchen, the leading student who was tall and well-built said to Xingchen, "I thought you would come over tomorrow, why is it a day earlier? Is it because the things were found more smoothly? What about the accessory?" Stardust was a bit inexplicable for a while. What accessories? Say what? Listen to what he means. Want to get accessories from your own hands? How is it possible? The accessories in my hand are going to be sold for money. So Xingchen replied, "I don't have accessories." Then he walked sideways around these 3 people and walked towards his bedroom. Seeing that Xingchen didn't bring the accessories for himself, the leading student was a little angry for a while, and shouted at Xingchen's back, "My suspension car is broken. I told you a few days ago that I asked you to find accessories. Didn't you? Are you looking for it?" Xingchen was also a little angry when he heard it, and turned to him and said, "Your suspension car is broken, you can go to your father, just ask him for money to buy accessories. What do you do with me? I'm sick." Then Xingchen ignored him, and then walked towards the dormitory. The leading student immediately became angry after hearing Xingchen's words, and immediately rushed over to find Xingchen's trouble. But this was near the school gate, and the school's discipline inspection team was maintaining order in the school. Seeing that the student was suspected of wanting to fight, he immediately shouted and reprimanded him. After listening to the discipline inspection team's reprimand, the student who was looking for trouble also fainted, and walked aside with his two younger brothers. But he didn't want to just let it go. Many people at the gate had heard Xingchen's words. Once those words spread, he would lose face a lot. But most of those people are something he can't afford to provoke, so he can only admit it. But Xingchen didn't want to let it go. Firstly, he had to force Xingchen to look for the parts of his levitation car, and secondly, what Xingchen said just now was so bad, Xingchen had to be taught a lesson. So the three of them started to go to the back and mutter. Here, Xingchen continued to walk towards his dormitory, but he suddenly remembered what the classmate said just now. Maybe he really had a little impression on him. That student is Gamper, who is in the same grade as Stardust. Different from Xingchen, this classmate Gamper has a good family background. His father works in a repair company and is still a small boss. So their family's income is enough to maintain a decent life for the whole family. Originally, Gamper and Xingchen were classmates at most, and they had nothing to do with each other. But this is not about to graduate, and Xingchen has no way out after graduation, so I want this Gamper to help introduce him to see if he can work in Gamper's father's company. However, introducing a part-time job is not a trivial matter. With such fierce competition here, let alone Gamper, even his father may not have the right to decide who to recruit. Originally, Gamper refused to decide on this matter. But in order to let the original owner of Stardust get him some accessories in exchange for money, this guy has been hanging on Stardust and won't let go. He didn't say it couldn't be done, and he didn't say it was hopeless, but he just asked Xingchen to help him find accessories from time to time. In the past year, Xingchen asked Xingchen to help him find 20 or 30 accessories. Some accessories may not be found in time, so most of the time Stardust buys them from other scavengers with his own money. In other words, in the previous year, Stardust had no money to eat, and the culprit who ate 3 servings of food in 5 days of starvation was this guy. If I had known this was the case, what I said just now should have been more exaggerated. But speaking of it, this Gamper is not easy to mess with. Unlike Stardust, Gamper's family is good, so he can concentrate on his cultivation, and he can keep up with food and nutrition. This makes Gamper stronger than Stardust. About to be stronger than the second order. If Stardust is considered human level 6, this Gamper has the strength of human level 8. Of course, in terms of actual combat power, you will only know after you have fought. However, for the school's actual combat drills, both parties must be of equal strength. Stardust and Gamper have never fought against each other because of their increased strength in the past 2 or 3 years. It's hard to say who is strong and who is weak in terms of specific combat power. After getting relevant information from memory, Xingchen didn't care about it anymore. Although this Gamper is 2 ranks higher than himself, private fights are strictly prohibited in the school. If caught, he will be repeated for inspection, and if he is serious, he will be expelled immediately. This has been in the school for many years. Once it is expelled, there will be no future for it. That's why that Gamper didn't dare to trouble himself in private at school. Think about this. Stardust didn't bother to care about it. After arriving at his dormitory, Xingchen put the bag he was carrying on the shelf on the ground. These accessories in the bag, I will find a chance to sell them in the black shop later. This time, I can't be idle. Let's go to the school cafeteria first. There are several cafeterias in the school. After all, the school is too big. If we all get together to eat, I'm afraid it will waste the time of many people. Moreover, the age difference between the students is a bit big, so if they all eat together, bad things will inevitably happen. Therefore, within the entire campus, there are several restaurants, and there are also independent small restaurants for some brainy ones. Now a restaurant that is closer to Shinchan's dormitory is also where he often eats. It's not too far away, so go to this place for something to eat. When Stardust came to this restaurant, which was the size of 2 basketball courts, there were not many people inside. After all, it was a school holiday, and only a dozen hardworking students who hadn't returned home ate inside. Shinchan walked to the place where the meal was picked up, and carefully observed the several meals placed here. Just a few meals. There are dozens of restaurants here like Chinese food. Maybe there are more kinds of food in the restaurant of the bosses, but in this restaurant, there are also 3 kinds of food with a total of 7 flavors to choose from. There is only 1 kind of water. This is for everyone. The asking price is 6 lar apiece. 3 kinds of food means that there are 3 standards. One is the kind that Shinchan usually eats, and it is also the standard ration that he can exchange for other people with the spiked rat. Such a ration costs 5 rals. The second is an enhanced version of the ration, probably because the nutritional energy and taste have been greatly improved. This kind of ration costs 15 rals. The third is a meal with a little spiritual energy. This kind of food is mixed with unknown ingredients, so it contains only a small amount of psionic energy necessary for a cultivator with the strength of Stardust. But the price is as high as 60 lar apiece. These 3 different foods are also one of the reasons why a poor child like Shinchan and a rich kid like Gamper are stronger. In the past, Shinchan ate a standard ration of 5 lails, and only this kind of ration was provided free of charge to subsidized students like Shinchan. Why? The hardworking original owner. Fortunately, now Stardust has changed. Before that, Stardust sold another unit of pure metal, and now he has more than 1,000 ral in cash. You can taste what this 60 lal meal is like. Stardust walked to the 60 lal serving counter, paid the money and got a serving of food and a serving of water. Then I found an unoccupied table and started enjoying it. In fact, there is nothing to enjoy, the water is common water. There is nothing to say. That spiritual meal is actually a piece of food, but it contains some psionic energy. The taste of the bite is very common. How does it compare with the tens of thousands of dishes of the 4 major Chinese cuisines on the earth? But this is the condition here, and there is no place to find food if you want to eat. After eating this spiritual meal, Shinchan felt that this meal had a stronger sense of fullness than the food he had eaten before. But of course he couldn't feel the nutrition. You can only know it after eating for a few days. After eating the food, I drank half a portion of water. Shinchan took the rest of the water and went to the place where he usually practiced sports. Over there is one of the school's dozens of training grounds. But because the location is a bit far away, not too many people go there. Because of his background, the original owner of Stardust is not very popular with his classmates. So stay away from everyone if he can. This training ground is just right for Stardust, so he comes here more often. Today is a rest day, so there is no instructor to supervise, and the cultivation of the students will depend on self-consciousness. Since Shinchan came to the training ground, he naturally came here to practice on his own initiative. It doesn't matter if the instructor is there or not. Following the usual steps, Stardust began to make preparations. Then there is daily practice. When physical activity starts, increase the amount of activity. Do some intensive training. Probably because of the spiritual meal that I ate today, when Shinchan was training, I felt an inexplicable power in the muscles all over my body, and I no longer felt a little weak like I used to. It seems that this kind of food is expensive for a reason. But this meal can buy 12 standard meals. It's really expensive. If you're enjoying my content, please consider donating a coffee. Or checking out my shirts on TeePublic. After about half a day of exercising, Shinchan stopped practicing. This meeting didn't reach the afternoon meal, but Shinchan didn't stop training just to eat. When he came to school, he brought 6 spaceship accessories that he didn't need, and he had to take advantage of the looser school holidays to sell them in the black shop outside. The reason why the shop here is called a black shop is actually an illegal existence. Usually outside stores must abide by certain laws when opening a store, and the items sold must have a legal source. But the cost of a completely legally operated store is actually very high, and there are some things that cannot be sold. So in some hidden areas, there will be a few shops that few people know about and sell those unsuitable products. Because of the reasons mentioned above, the prices of these shops are relatively low. A hangout for those on a tight budget. Stardust is going to a black shop, which is one of the black shops known to scavengers. It can receive and sell goods, regardless of the source of the goods, but the price is much lower. Xingchen also knows that the prices offered in these shops are low, but he has second-hand spaceship accessories. One is that there is no legal source, and he picked them up from the scrap pile, and people don't recognize such sources. The second is that the quality is not guaranteed. Think about it, they are all dismantled from scrapped spacecraft, how good the quality can be. Regular stores must be selling new accessories, who would want second-hand old things? So there is no way for him to sell it to a black shop. At any rate, you can sell it for some money, but keeping it in your hands is also a waste product. After leaving the practice field, I walked a long way back to my dormitory. The road was a bit long, but I have walked this far in the past, so I have long been used to it. There is no one else in the dormitory, they are all single rooms. Except for the change of clothes, the bag is full of things to be used when going out, so Xingchen put it on his back and headed out the door. His dormitory was a little far from the school gate when he came, but this time he was going to another gate. That side is closer to the direction of Heipu. While walking on campus, a classmate on the side of the road greeted Xingchen. This is a bit strange, no one usually pays attention to Xingdust. But out of politeness, Xingchen still responded, and explained that he was going out to do some errands, so he stopped talking, and then walked towards the gate. When Xingchen walked out of the gate here, he first looked around. He had only seen this place in the memory of the original owner, and it was still a little strange when he actually saw it. But after looking around, there is nothing special. It is the same building made of steel, with some decorations and advertisements on the top floor. Looking down, it is all dim like a crack in the ground. This is because the city is built on a large basin, and above the basin is a large protective shield that protects the entire city from outside influences. The buildings in the city are giant steel giants several kilometers high, and the jungle, composed of hundreds of steel buildings, constitutes the entire city. But because the buildings are too tall, the whole city is actually divided into several floors. The uppermost floor is the area where some rich people and large enterprises stay because of its good light, wide view, and good living conditions. The school where Stardust is located is in the upper-level area. After all, cultivating talents is the most important thing. Below the upper floor are the residences of some middle-class people. In addition, many legal shops and some entertainment venues are also in this area. Going further down, there are some civilian residences. In addition to ordinary people, there are also some shops related to people's livelihood such as repairs and cleaning opened in this area. Because the cost of opening a store in this area is lower. Go down in the civilian area, and there is another floor. However, this layer is actually not very clearly distinguished from ordinary people. In it, there is me and you and me. The residents on this floor are more complicated, and all kinds of people of different religions and 9 streams are mixed in, not to mention the living environment. Originally, the bottom of these buildings is the basement, the pipeline floor, the equipment floor, and so on. You think what good conditions there will be. But the people who live here can't choose these, because they are all poor people, and they live every day as masters. There are also some people who can't see the light, they can only stay in this area. The black shop that Xingchen was planning to go to was located in a civilian area, but it was already close to the lowest poverty-stricken area. There was some danger there. People with low strength were often robbed in the past, and even worse things would happen. But this black shop is right there, if you don't go, it won't work. So Stardust chose the time of the day when the light was strongest. At this time, most of the lower-level residents are catching up on sleep, because most of them are active late at night, so as to avoid the inspection of the patrols. Afternoon in the daytime, this will be the time when they are sleeping soundly, which will be safer anyway. Xingchen was outside the school gate, took out the hoverboard in his bag, and was about to fly up to the black shop, when he turned his head and found several people coming out of the school. He still knows these people. They are the gampers who stopped Xingchen from asking for accessories when he entered the school gate. Judging by the aggressive looks of those people, it seems that they are looking for trouble for themselves. But as soon as they left the school, they got the letter and rushed over. They were afraid that there was something wrong with the classmates they met before, and they were 90% sure that it was the letter sent by the guy. Is it just these few idlers? Don't practice well, come here to block people to play? Xingchen didn't hesitate. Now that there are many people on the other side, and this meeting is outside the school's patrol and discipline inspection team won't meddle in their own business. There is no good fruit for this man, Shan Ligu, to fight against them. If you don't want to mess with these nosy things, then you have to leave quickly. Stardust stepped on the hoverboard and slipped away. If you don't go, you're a fool. The few people who came looking for trouble were also anxious when they saw Xingchen slipping away, and ran this way quickly, but their feet were not as fast as skateboards. Seeing that Xingchen was about to run away, two of them brought hoverboards, and some followed suit, getting on the skateboards and chasing Xingchen. Seeing that they couldn't catch up, the other two turned around and entered the school again, borrowing skateboards from their familiar classmates. Some students saw that they were doing trouble and did not lend them, but there are still some who are willing to borrow. After a few minutes of stopping, the two borrowed hoverboards, and they also left the school to chase in the direction where Stardust left. In this short period of time, Xingchen has already flown far away, but the two behind him are also quite tight. I didn't get rid of it for a while. In fact, Xingchen ran away directly not because he was afraid of the other party, but because he didn't want to suffer the immediate loss. And this trip is to sell spaceship accessories, and the money for selling accessories is the living expenses needed for this month. If these people mess up the deal, it would be a big loss. Seeing that the two behind him were following closely, Xingchen didn't hesitate anymore, and started to fly rapidly along the downward passage. This is going to the next level. The two behind did not hesitate, they kept chasing after Xingchen, and used the communicator to inform the two behind where to go from time to time. I go. These people are following closely. Do you really think chasing people is fun? After reaching the next floor, Stardust did not stay, but turned around a building, and flew to the next floor from another downward passage. Stardust flew all the way to the civilian area. The buildings here are not very regular, and the passages are a bit twisted. It is not easy to fly on a hoverboard on such a road. But it just so happened that Xing turned around and flew towards a small path when the two behind were not out of sight when he just came out of the passage. When the two of them saw Xingzhan's whereabouts and chased after the trail, Xingzhan had already turned into another small alley-like passage. If you go around 3 times and don't go around 2 times, the people who are chasing after you will lose their way. There is no trace of Stardust to be found again. Xingchen got rid of the pursuers behind him, no one was relieved, and flew a long way along several small paths in one direction, and then stopped. Why? It's just a verbal conflict. Do you still need a few people to come over and block people? I was speechless, but Xingchen came out this time to sell goods. This meeting has already delayed some time, but there is no time to complain here. Xingchen looked at the sign beside the road, recognized his position, turned around and flew in the direction of Heipu. This black shop is located at the bottom of a civilian residential area. It is a storefront composed of 2 houses. The boss inside is a strong one-armed man named Gerlan. Although this guy is a one-armed guy, if he can open a shop here for a long time, he must not be messed with. Otherwise, the store would have disappeared long ago. When Xingchen came to Heipu, the surrounding area was the same as usual, and no one passed by. Fortunately, it seems to be safe. The black shop is still as quiet as ever. The shops here are like this. If it is really lively, with a prosperous business atmosphere, people who are afraid of buying and selling private goods will not dare to come to the door. The boss Gillander was dozing off behind the counter, but as soon as Stardust entered the door of the black shop, the boss opened his eyes. After seeing clearly that the person was Xingchen, he slowly straightened up and asked Xingchen lazily if he wanted to buy or sell. After Xingchen came in, he saw the boss, first said hello politely, then put the bag on the counter, and explained that there were several spaceship accessories in the bag that he wanted to sell. Come here to sell goods. Xingchen has always been very polite. This is because I heard the bald-headed uncle tell about the origin of this Gilland boss. It is said that this person was from the army and has been on the battlefield. Later, I didn't know why I had a deadlock with my boss, and I was directly expelled from the military. Then he was hired as a bodyguard for private work for money, but the employer didn't know which gods he offended, and was surrounded and killed all over the house. Gillander was quite capable, and he came out of the chaos, but he was stabbed by the opponent's master and lost an arm. Later, I couldn't get along on the original planet, so I came here to dawdle. Although this person came here to fool around, he had blood on his hands before, and not just once. Sitting there, he could vaguely feel the smell of blood. With such a character as the boss, you think it would be impolite for Xingdust to enter the door. It is enough without walking and kicking. Gilland looked at Xingchen, nodded and said, then let's see the quality. If it's too bad, you can't accept it. It's not easy to sell. Stardust also nodded to show that he knew. Then I took out those 6 accessories from the bag. The 6 accessories I took this time are not too big, because I have to take a commuter car, and I can't carry 2 big accessories just by relying on Xingchen's own bag. The boss Gillander checked it carefully, and then frowned. Your accessories are a bit old, I'm afraid it's not easy to sell. I can't give you a high price. Although Xingchen is a bit cautious with this boss, these accessories are related to this month's living expenses, so he has to fight for it. Of course, the boss may just want to lower the price by saying these words. Uncle Gilland, these are already the best-looking accessories selected. It's not easy to find such accessories in the waste area. Please give me a better price. The boss didn't say anything, just took a closer look. It took a few minutes to quote a price of 850 rals. Why? This price is really cheap. You must know that buying these 6 new spaceship accessories will cost more than 10,000 lars. The 6 accessories that Xingchen brought over this time are 70% new in terms of appearance. If it is sold to someone in a ship repair yard, it is estimated that it can be sold at 20% or 30% off the original price. But when it comes to Haipu, it's only less than 10% off. But who made Stardust have no way out? It's not just that Stardust has no way to do this, most of those scavengers also don't have this way. Otherwise, their lives will always be better. Xingchen smiled and begged the boss to add more. It is really not easy to collect accessories of this quality. This means that Stardust has rhubarb to help search, otherwise it may not be able to collect so much after occupying 2 or 3 times the site. Boss Gilland is getting a little impatient. It's just such a small business, and the profit is not much. I don't know how long it will take to make a move. It's money in his hands. But he looked at Xingchen. He was wearing worn-out protective clothing. It's all about being poor. Come on, add another 50 lar. Although 900 rals is still not much, but that's the only way to go. Stardust nodded his head as he recognized the price. Gilland casually put these accessories in the box aside, and then prepared to give Stardust money. Although the boss is very fierce in bargaining, but the deal is really going to be done, and the reputation is still guaranteed. At this time, Xingchen was looking at the goods placed around him, and in a blink of an eye, he saw a lot of energy bars on the shelf beside him. They were the small energy bars used on the connector, and the kind that rhubarb could use. The energy bars used by Stardust are usually dismantled from waste equipment, but this time, with rhubarb, a big eater of energy bars, it doesn't matter just by dismantling the machine bars. Seeing that the energy stored in rhubarb is only pitiful less than 2%, as the big contributor to making money this time, it is natural to buy a few rewards. So Xingchen asked the boss what the price of this energy bar is. Seeing that Xingchen intends to buy something, Boss Gilland's tone is quite amicable. The common sticks cost 11 LAL, and a box of 20 sticks costs 210 LAL. Oh? 11 lol 1. This is cheaper than the store near the school. The public price outside is 12 RALs a piece. If you buy it in a box, it will be 5 RALs cheaper. But when you think about it, you know that Gillender's store is a black shop, and the cost of opening a store is much less. In addition, the things he sells in this store are unbearable or bought from private channels outside, and I am afraid they will be lower. Comparing these two, the selling price is naturally low. But is this price negotiable? Xingchen discussed with Gilland again if it could be cheaper, and Gilland was so annoyed that he wanted to drive people away. How much cheaper would the 200 LAR items be? However, seeing that Xingchen is not very old, it is still 415 LAR if you buy 2 boxes, don't think about it any lower. It's 5 RALs cheaper, so it's cheap, though I was thinking about buying a box. Since it can be 5 RALs cheaper, then buy 2 boxes. Anyway, I'm afraid I won't be able to feed enough rhubarb after using up 2 boxes. After paying the bill with the boss, Xingchen took 2 boxes of energy bars and the remaining 485 RAL bills and left the black shop gate. After finishing the work, he left the gate of the black shop, and it seemed that only 10 minutes had passed. Xingchen thought that there was still time to practice, so he stepped on the skateboard and flew back along the road. This side is already close to the low-level slums, and the road is twisted and twisted by various buildings. Fortunately, Xingchen has been here a few times, but he still remembers how to get out. After leaving this residential area, Xingchen came to a passage to the next floor. There are patrol officers on duty at the passageway here, spot-checking those pedestrians going up from time to time. But Xingchen is a young man, wearing a school uniform, the patrol team didn't ask him to check. After going through this upward passage, Stardust came to the upper middle level area. This area belongs to the middle to high income group and some business stores. The flow of people is relatively dense. It will be broad daylight again, and there will be constant flow of people on the normal street. It is not easy for such a large number of people to fly around on skateboards, so Xingchen had to turn to the alley on the back of the street. Because it is not a traffic artery, there are almost no people passing by. Flying a few small alleys in this way, about halfway away from the direction of the school, De Huang suddenly called out to stop, and said that there was something in front that might be useful. What can there be here? This is a high-end community, or there are some merchants selling things, so it's not useful for people's stores. But it costs money to buy, you told me that it is useful and there is some use for it. But since Rhubarb said it was useful, it was natural to stop and take a look. Anyway, there is no shortage of this work. But at the place Rhubarb said, Xingchen was a little speechless. This shit is a garbage dump behind a store, you asked me to come here to find something useful. I said Rhubarb. Although I am a scavenger, I am picking up useful pure metals to sell for money, not picking up garbage in this garbage dump. You really think of me as a scavenger? Master, after my recent exploration and search, I found that there is a lack of plant species in this area. According to the rule that the degree of rarity determines the value, these things should be of some use. Oh. There is some truth in what you said. There is a lack of plants on this planet, and all the things we eat are brought in from outside, but how can valuable plants be thrown into the garbage dump? You are kidding me. No, all the things I found have germs that can grow plants, or master, go find them. After hearing De Huang's words, Xingchen felt a black line on his forehead. This stuff really makes me dig through the trash. Looking at the several large boxes of trash in this area, a character like Xing Dust who often picks up trash can't handle it. This smell is much better than the smell of scrap metal piles. But there is no way, Rhubarb said it would be useful, but Xingchen was really curious. If it is something that can be planted, it will be worth money if it is planted. What I lack most now is money. Xingchen silently recited a sentence in his heart, it's all for money, come on. Then resolutely walked to one of the several trash cans. This one is the trash can with things that Rhubarb said. Open the lid of the trash can, there are more than half of the trash inside, but because of the lack of water resources here, there are not many things in the trash can that are wet and sticky. Most of them are all kinds of waste kitchen utensils. In addition, there are some tablecloths and the like for cleaning up. Of course, the tablecloth here is not made of cotton cloth, but an unknown chemical fiber item. Stardust rummaged through the rubbish, and saw what Rhubarb was talking about under a pile of tablecloths. It was a dozen or so tubers that looked like Chinese cabbage roots, but they were cut very cleanly, and there were no leaves or sticks left. It is said to be cabbage root, but it is actually more like the rhizome left after the leaves of lettuce are removed, but these tubers are not picked by hand, but cut clean with a knife. These things are just some old roots. They look dry, but they can also grow things? You are not kidding me. Rhubarb said, a little aggrieved. These roots seem to be useless, but there are buds on 5 of the rhizomes. According to the plant cultivation tutorial, new plants can be grown. Well, Stardust nodded, there is indeed hope to grow something with buds. But this thing is not easy to grow. Now the whole planet is covered by scrap metal, and it is hard to find even some useful soil. Where do you think I can find a piece of land to plant it? Rhubarb was speechless after hearing Xingchen's question, because it didn't know where to find the dirt. But Rhubarb let Stardust turn over a piece of tablecloth that was deeper under the tubers. This piece of cloth was a bit damp, and it looked much dirtier than other cloths. But Rhubarb said it was useful, so Stardust had no choice but to take out the cloth. Turning the cloth over and unfolding it, Xingchen discovered what Rhubarb said. In a fold of this cloth, there is a small piece of green vegetable juice, and there are a few yellowed sesame-sized seeds in the juice. As far as Rhubarb is concerned, these seeds are a kind of vegetable called red tomato fruit, which can be eaten raw or cooked, and it tastes delicious. Although it does not contain spiritual energy, as the main vegetable of human beings, the output is very large, but it is very rare on this planet. Forehead. It sounds a bit like a tomato, but it's just a few seeds, and I can't tell what it looks like. And red tomato fruit is a high-end ingredient here, and the original owner has never seen it before. Seeing that he found all the things Rhubarb said, Xingchen didn't want to waste here, but just found a piece of cloth to wrap the 2 things and put them in his backpack. Then stepped on the skateboard and left. After all, this is a garbage dump. Although Xingchen doesn't care much about his own image, there is no point in digging through other people's garbage dumps for the owner to see. Let's go. Nothing happened on the rest of the way. In order not to meet those classmates who were looking for trouble, Xingchen made a special detour and returned to the campus from another school gate. Next, I was planning to continue training, but I still have to fiddle with the 2 plants I just got back. After entering his bedroom, Xingchen took out the dozen or so tubers and several seeds. Clean it up with a clean face cloth first, then set it aside on a small table. These things are today's harvest, but how to plant them is a troublesome matter. This place is not like the earth, there is no mud, rivers, and wells to use. If you want to grow, you can only use 6 rels of water sold outside. I just don't know if this thing can be hydroponics. The ratio of these various fertilizers also needs to be clarified. Thinking of these, Xingchen nods his head. When I picked up this thing, I just thought that it could sell a lot of money when I planted it. When it was time to plant it, I realized that the cost of growing this thing is not a joke. According to the records of these 2 plants in the data stored by Rhubarb, these 2 vegetable plants are water-loving, that is to say, there must be enough water to irrigate. But the water here is only half a liter in size, and it costs 6 rels to buy it. There are not many restrictions on the quantity, and no one will check you if you buy hundreds of copies. But this is quite a lot of money. Xingchen has less than 1,500 rials in total, which is a month's living expenses. It can't all be used for growing vegetables. And there is no place for this kind of thing to be used. This meeting is inside the school. It is unrealistic for you to go outside to find a piece of land. The ground, wall, and ceiling here are all metal, and there is no soil at all. You're trying to collect some dust here and there for fear of the last look, It's all metal dust. The conditions here are so bad. Just now, according to the results of the investigation, Rhubarb found that these rhizomes were a little short of water because they had been outside for a long time, and now they need to add water as soon as possible. Well, I brought a bottle of water in my bag, so I can use it first. But what container do you use? This is not the Earth, there are no plastic boxes of all kinds. There are at most metal boxes here. Impatiently, Shinchan vacated the metal box next to the sundries, poured some water into it, and then put those few vegetable stems and sprouts in it. Take a moisturizing bath first. Rhubarb said that these vegetable stems had faces and germs, but Shinchan looked at them for a long time and couldn't find what they looked like. He felt that they were just ordinary vegetable stems. But if Rhubarb says you have it, try it, if one comes out, you will get rich. It is possible to make a fortune. I don't know how much water will be used to irrigate this thing in the end. If the cost is too high, it may lose money. Vegetable stems are processed first. Then it's time to play with the seeds of those red eggplants. Still, according to the method taught by Rhubarb, these seeds should be dried to remove excess water. This allows the seeds to mature and reach planting stage as soon as possible. This is easy to handle. Take a piece of dry cloth, put these 6 seeds on it, and place it near the vent. There is also a light source here, so with the light and the wind blowing, the dehydration can be completed in about half a day. Rhubarb checked the lighting and wind conditions here, and then gave a report that it had to be put away in about an hour and a half. Otherwise, the seeds will lose their activity due to excessive dehydration. Alright. Growing vegetables is such a hassle. In order for these seeds to reach the planting period safely, Shinchan stayed in the dormitory for half an hour and didn't go anywhere, but it's not just sitting there in a daze. Shinchan completed the course of 36 small cycles of internal energy circulation in the dormitory. Of course, this meeting was not checked by the instructor, and he would not be praised. When the time came, Rhubarb instructed Shinchan to wrap the 6 seeds in a cloth and put them aside, so that they could be soaked in water to accelerate germination after waiting for 2 or 3 days. After finishing the matter of seeds, Stardust has to go out to buy a place to grow vegetables. Just buy 2 or 3 metal boxes, the slightly larger ones. Then buy some sand, gravel, soil, and the like. Of course, this must be sold. Before going out, Stardust replaced Rhubarb with a new energy bar. This is the reward for Rhubarb's hard work these last few days. Of course, this one is not enough, and the Rhubarb needs to be replaced several times along the way. It's a little troublesome to change, but there is no energy bar with higher energy density here. It can only be that the quality is not enough and the quantity is enough. After leaving the dormitory door, Shinchan remembered that there were still a few idlers blocking his business. Hey! This day is full of troubles. However, in order to save trouble, Shinchan took a detour, and then paid attention to whether there were acquaintances passing by. Anyway, he walked out of the school gate cautiously. This time, no one has been traced. That's right, those boys were originally a very small miscellaneous fish group. There were not many people in the first place. Even if they asked people to keep an eye on their whereabouts, few people would answer them. It was probably a coincidence that the classmate from last time was a busybody, so he would inform them of his whereabouts. After leaving the school gate, Shinchan stepped on the hoverboard and left the relevant shops, but after searching around, he bought 3 boxes for growing things, but he didn't see any for sale for the sand and gravel ones. 3 2-foot square metal boxes, cost Stardust 87 lar, not too expensive, not cheap either. But this is not what Shinchan cares about, the soil for planting is the key point. Fortunately, after being introduced by a store clerk, Shinchan went to a store selling decoration materials, and finally found some gravel. There is no dirt, and Shinchan was told that dirt is not sold here at all. Well, forget it, anyway, Rhubarb has checked the composition of these gravels, and it is completely fine to grow vegetables. But those nutritious fertilizers and the like have to find another way. After buying the gravel, Shinchan carried 3 boxes and a small bag of gravel on his back, and tremblingly walked back on the hoverboard. The main reason is that the 3 boxes are a bit heavy, and with the addition of sand and gravel, it is a bit overweight. Fortunately, the problem is not big, and we can go back. When he got back to the dormitory, Shinchan tossed again, filled a box with shallow sand and gravel, and then put it aside. Because there will be no water, the plant stems cannot be planted, so they can only be soaked first. After finishing these things, it's almost time for dinner. Stardust still came to the previous restaurant and ordered a 15 RAL enhanced meal. Add 3 parts water. It's not that I don't want to eat the meal that contains spiritual energy, but that I don't have enough money to eat it. So Shinchan has already made up his mind, he can order a psychic meal for the morning meal, and during the day, it is just a good time to strengthen his training to enhance his physical fitness. If you can save some for this meal at night, just save some. This time, Shinchan returned to the dormitory to eat, mainly because he wanted to bring water back to grow vegetables. After eating the nutritious meal in my hand, I drank half of the water, and poured the remaining half of the water into the box with gravel. Because there is not much sand and gravel in the box, this half of the water can make the sand and gravel very moist. Stardust put those vegetable stems on the gravel, and then buried the vegetable stems with the gravel next to it. Even if it is planted like this. Because the vegetable stalk hasn't sprouted yet, it doesn't need light. Stardust just puts the lid on the box and puts it aside. Now it's just a matter of waiting for the stalks to germinate. Of course, while it's sprouting, Stardust still has work to do. You need fertilizer to grow vegetables, and there are no fertilizers for sale here. Stardust can only find a way by himself. However, as a traveler who was born in China, this matter is still difficult for him. Taking advantage of the late night, Shinchan went out again before the break. This time he was going to the garbage dumps of various restaurants to see if there was any biowaste like discarded vegetable stems. Collect these for composting. Anyway, these rhizomes and the like, as long as they are chopped up and soaked in some water, they can be used for fertilization after 10 days and half a month. Of course, this kind of fertilizer can't be watered directly. When the time comes, pour some water on the compost heap, and then take some of the washed water to dilute it. Only this diluted water can be used to fertilize vegetables. All the things for growing vegetables are ready, so Stardust is relieved. Today, I trained my physical fitness for the first half of the day, and the rest of the time I just ran around looking for things. If that's all, I don't know when my strength will increase. This is not going to work. Shinchan saw that there was nothing wrong with the vegetable stems in the box, so he went to the previous training ground to practice without worry. After cultivating in the training ground for more than 2 hours, Shinchan returned to the dormitory, covered in sweat. There is no such thing as bathing with water here, it can only be done by wiping the whole body with a large piece of damp cloth. After cleaning your body, you can finally have a good rest. Early the next morning, after Shinchan got up, he first looked at the vegetable growing box. Those rhizomes don't seem to have changed much, but the center seems to be a little protruding. However, Rhubarb said that the nutrient flow inside these rhizomes is still alive, and it should be able to grow alive. After listening to Rhubarb's words, Shinchan was relieved a lot, but today is the school day, so don't delay. Shinchan poured half of the water into the vegetable growing box, and then still put the lid on. Planting vegetables is not a big problem. The other compost box, Stardust, has not been opened, and the broken plant stems in it will emit a smell after being soaked in water. It is better not to look at it. After finishing all these things, Shinchan rushed to the restaurant to have dinner. Same as yesterday, Shinchan ordered a 60 RAL psychic meal and a drink of water. In addition, Shinchan received his own subsidized meal, which is a common meal plus a water. Don't waste this food, save it later and eat it on the rest day. After eating, Shinchan came to the training ground for class. Shinchan and his group of students are about to graduate, and the knowledge that needs to be learned has been learned a few years ago, and there is no particularly complicated knowledge system here. Now Stardust's main learning task is actually to enhance the overall strength, and reach the prefecture level as soon as possible. Of course, this goal is not achieved by everyone. Originally, Stardust was useless, but after all this, he was only around level 6. There are several small levels short of that goal, but now as long as there is a spiritual meal every day, and if you can persist in high-intensity training, you should be able to reach human level 8 or 9 when you graduate. As for the standard at the prefecture level, it is still a bit difficult. More than half of the people in the training ground for the class came one after another, and some of them either asked for leave or were strong enough to prepare for the ground level, so they didn't train in this venue. The instructor gave serious lectures as usual, and then reported today's training program. If these projects cannot be completed, the whole class will have to accompany them for additional training in the field. So at this time everyone is training very seriously. Of course, these training programs are also formulated according to the physical fitness of most students. As long as you work hard, there is generally no problem. After these items are completed, the instructor will teach everyone some technical movements, and then they will practice each other. The strength of this pair training is equal. That is, human level 6th level versus 6th level, 7th level versus 7th level. It won't make you exaggerated that a 6th level is against an 8th level. This is also the reason why Xingchen didn't care about those few students who came to find fault. He punished them privately in school very severely, and those few people's backgrounds were not enough to settle such things. If you want to do it publicly, you can only do sparring time on the training ground, but the fact that the strength is equivalent stops those few. It can only be said that Xingchen's health is a bit weak, but there are some advantages. The students present first gathered together to complete the prescribed number of training items, and then formed a team to start practicing. Stardust's opponent is a slightly shorter and stronger guy. This guy is not very active in training. Although the food is not bad, his overall strength is comparable to that of Stardust, which is at the 6th human level. The practice between the two is actually not very interesting, especially the opposite one. Some of the various moves are not very proficient. When fighting with Xingchen, they often fall to the ground with 3 or 2 punches, but this kind of duel practice will not be heavy-handed, and it will not be really injured. After the duel training is finished, there is a noon break. Everyone can relax and drink some water. Then there is the training program in the afternoon. As for the evening, there is no training content. However, more diligent students will take the initiative to practice more, whether it is physical fitness or skills, according to the principle of practicing where their weaknesses are. Anyway, everyone's goal is to rush to the prefecture level. The reason why we set the goal at the prefecture level is because reaching the prefecture level means meeting some basic requirements for career entry. In the future, you will have more employment opportunities. No matter what you do, your income will be much higher. Stardust has eaten spiritual meals for breakfast these 2 days, which has increased his strength a lot, and his durability has also become stronger. So after completing the items specified by the instructor, I took the initiative to increase the amount of exercise by 20%. After dinner, Xingchen returned to the training ground where he used to practice before, and then increased his exercise volume. Xingchen didn't return to the dormitory until the break time stipulated by the school, ready to rest. But before the break, Xingchen took good care of the box of vegetable roots again. After this day's growth, some buds did grow in the center of those few rhizomes. This is a good sign. Added another third of water to the box, and Stardust put the lid on again. Then let the plants grow on their own. For the next 2 days, Stardust will have the same routine. The only thing that has changed is the few growing rhizomes, with a little small leaves exposed on them, but such a small leaf, when it grows to the size of a palm, I don't know how long it will take. That night, Xingchen didn't go to the training ground to practice as usual, but left the school gate and went to pick up trash on a hoverboard. Why? There is no way. The rhizomes for composting that I picked up before are only a small bag, which is probably not enough to make the vegetables on hand fully grown, so today Xingchen is going to search for some spares. After nearly 2 hours of searching in one night, there were more than 40 roots of that kind of plant, and there were a few dried plants. I don't know what kind it is. But Rhubarb checked and said these can be composted. Then take it out together. But recently, Xingchen has also picked up quite a few roots of that kind, but the ones that can germinate have not been found. It seems that the vegetables that come in here have been processed and cannot grow and germinate. This makes seeing dust a little strange. You said that the roots thrown away by a family or two can't germinate. It's probably a matter of chance. But several of these can't germinate. Probably these vegetables have some kind of restriction. Just don't let the people here grow vegetables again. But the rhizomes thrown by the previous restaurant could germinate. Xingqian guessed that the vegetables used in that restaurant might have come in privately, not the vegetables bought through formal channels. But these things have nothing to do with Xingqian. What he is worried about now is whether he can plant those few vegetables well. Thank you for watching Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share and subscribe. Have a great day.